For most of their lives, Abby and Brittany Hensel have existed in a space few people can truly understand, one where privacy is fragile and curiosity feels relentless. Born conjoined, they never chose public attention, yet from childhood onward, it followed them everywhere. Television appearances, magazine covers, and documentaries turned deeply personal moments into shared property for millions of strangers. While many viewers believed they were witnessing inspiration, Abby and Brittany experienced something more complicated, growing up while constantly being watched. Every milestone, from learning to walk to choosing a career, was framed through fascination rather than familiarity. Over time, they learned how to manage that attention, deciding what parts of their lives to share and what to guard fiercely. More than anything, they wanted what most people take for granted: the freedom to live quietly, make adult choices, and be known for who they are, not what makes them unusual. Choosing ordinary over fame. As adulthood approached, Abby and Brittany made a decision that surprised many who followed them for years. They stepped away from the spotlight. After their TLC series ended, they didn't chase fame or public speaking tours. Instead, they chose a life built around routine, purpose, and calm. They became teachers in Minnesota, a profession grounded in patience and service rather than spectacle. In the classroom, they weren't a media phenomenon. They were educators, guiding students through lessons, challenges, and growth. This quiet chapter of their lives wasn't an accident. It was intentional. They reduced their online presence, kept personal milestones private, and focused on building stability. For the first time, their days weren't shaped by cameras or commentary. That sense of normalcy mattered deeply. It allowed them to exist as adults rather than subjects of discussion, proving that fulfillment doesn't require public validation. Sometimes it requires distance from it. The right to private milestones. Like anyone else, Abby and Brittany reached a point where personal milestones mattered more than public opinion. Love, commitment, and family are deeply human experiences, yet for them, even the idea of these moments felt complicated. For years, they protected their personal lives carefully, understanding how easily curiosity could turn invasive. When Abby chose to marry, it wasn't a statement or spectacle. It was a quiet decision made with intention and care, surrounded only by those who mattered most. There were no announcements, no interviews, and no attempt to control a narrative because there was no narrative meant for the public. It was simply a woman making a choice about her own life. That privacy wasn't secrecy, it was self-respect. For someone who had lived decades with little control over what others felt entitled to know, keeping that moment personal was a powerful act of autonomy. When privacy becomes a headline. Despite their efforts, privacy can be fragile in a digital world. Years after stepping away from fame, public records and online speculation pulled Abby and Brittany back into global conversation without their consent. Suddenly, deeply personal choices were treated as debate topics. Strangers weighed in on legality, ethics, and relationships they had no connection to. The most painful part wasn't curiosity, it was entitlement. The assumption that because Abby and Brittany were once public figures, their lives should remain permanently accessible. This moment exposed a harsh truth about modern attention culture. Silence is often interpreted as permission, and boundaries are rarely respected. What should have remained a private chapter instead became something others felt justified dissecting. For the twins, it wasn't about disagreement or misunderstanding. It was about losing control over their own story once again, just when they believed they had finally earned the right to live without explanation. The damage of online misinformation. As attention intensified, misinformation made everything worse. Impersonation accounts and false claims spread quickly, fueled by algorithms that reward shock over truth. Photos taken out of context and edited captions created narratives Abby and Brittany never authored. The emotional toll of watching strangers invent realities about your body, your family, and your future is difficult to overstate. What made it especially painful was how easily these false stories were accepted as fact. Few paused to ask whether the twins had confirmed anything or whether silence might simply mean they wanted peace. Misinformation doesn't just confuse audiences, it harms real people. It turns private individuals into fictional characters and encourages others to treat speculation as entertainment. For Abby and Brittany, this wasn't just exhausting, it was a reminder that stepping away from fame doesn't guarantee protection in an online world where attention never truly disappears. Humanity before curiosity. One of the hardest lessons in Abby and Brittany's story is how often curiosity overrides compassion. Conversations about their lives frequently focus on logistics instead of humanity, as if understanding anatomy matters more than respecting boundaries. This framing reduces two full human beings into a puzzle to be solved rather than individuals deserving dignity. What's often forgotten is that they feel embarrassment, exhaustion, love, frustration, and joy just like anyone else. They've spent years asking for one simple thing: to be treated normally. That doesn't mean ignoring their uniqueness. It means not letting it justify intrusion. Their story challenges us to examine how we engage with people who are different. Are we seeking understanding, or are we consuming someone else's life for curiosity's sake? The difference matters, because one builds empathy while the other quietly causes harm. Strength in choosing silence. In moments when public pressure demanded explanations, Abby and Brittany chose silence. Not because they owed answers, but because they didn't. Silence became a boundary, a way to protect their peace in a world that rarely allows it. Choosing not to respond to every rumor or headline wasn't weakness. It was strength. It signaled that they no longer felt obligated to perform transparency for strangers. That choice is especially powerful in a culture that treats oversharing as normal and restraint as suspicious. By continuing their work, nurturing their relationships, and focusing on everyday life, they demonstrated that fulfillment doesn't require public approval. Their resilience isn't loud or dramatic, it's steady. It's the courage to keep living well despite being misunderstood, and the discipline to protect what matters even when others demand access. What their story asks of us. Abby and Brittany Hensel's journey isn't a lesson about anatomy, marriage, or public fascination. It's a lesson about respect. It asks us to reconsider how we engage with people whose lives look different from our own. Curiosity is natural, but it becomes harmful when it ignores consent. Their story reminds us that no amount of public exposure cancels a person's right to privacy. Just because information can be found doesn't mean it should be shared, debated, or monetized. At its core, their experience challenges a culture that confuses visibility with ownership. The most meaningful response to their story isn't speculation or judgment, it's restraint. Letting people live without constant commentary is one of the simplest, most powerful forms of respect. If there's anything to learn from Abby and Brittany, it's that extraordinary resilience often looks like choosing peace in a world that refuses to stop watching.